What is up, hustlers? Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the No Excuses Show. My name is John Danes, and I'm your host. And today, I'm here with my man, Alex Lombard. Super excited about this one. Alex has been able to do some really cool things within entrepreneurship and business and personal branding. So I am very excited. Alex, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Definitely, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting. So for all of the listeners, why don't you give a basic intro on who you are and what you do, and we'll get into it a little bit more in depth later, but just for everybody to give some context.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me on again. Super excited to be here. My name is Alex Lombard. I'm 27 years old. I live out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Originally from the Midwest, grew up in Michigan. And, quick backstory. I got my start in entrepreneurship at 21 years old. So about 6 years ago, I started in the direct sales network marketing industry, did that for a while, kind of built the foundation of just, my skills, my relationships, everything I knew. And during that time as well, got started in Instagram, stayed consistent with that. Fast forward to today, I currently co-own a digital marketing company called Invigorate, as well as a couple different businesses inside of the Instagram and personal branding world. So I do a lot of stuff with just personal branding, digital marketing, social media marketing, working with clients from all over the place and, just going out there and building my brand along with it. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about me and what I do. I do a lot of investing and stuff too on the side. So, but yeah.
That's awesome, man. So Alex, tell me about this. Who were you as a kid? Like, how did you do throughout school? Was school your thing? Was it not? Did you try college? I'm really interested to know on that.
Yeah, dude. So, no, school is definitely not really my thing. Seems like a pretty common theme for a lot of people that I've met. When I was younger, I used to actually when I first got my start in the business, I used to really go hard at bashing school, but I've kind of moved away from that because there are some pros to it, but at the end of the day, man, it definitely wasn't my thing. I never was one to get super good grades or anything like that. Growing up, what I always tell everybody was my story. I was really the kid that was just super hyper adventurous, looking for a way out. Growing up in through high school, I knew, then there was college and you go into the quote unquote real world. I always had this big fear of doing that because I knew once school ended, I was like, well, I don't want to go down the path that everybody else is doing. Everybody else is told, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, build a resume, go back for a job. And then, you land a job and now you're working 9 to 5, 60, 70, 80 hours a week and you live for the weekends and that whole path. Right. And so for me, I never wanted to do that. I saw my parents do that. I saw my friends' parents do that. And it just wasn't my thing, man. And so I was always looking for a way out. Just trying anything and everything. I was the kid that was like, I'm going to be a pro and you name it. And I was going to do it, pro snowboarder, skateboarder, football player, all these different things. And then, basically long story short, after just running through a bunch of different opportunities and anything that came into my plate, like I mentioned earlier, I got introduced to my first real legitimate business opportunity. And that's what kind of took everything off. I did go to college. The only reason I went to college was because at the time, that's the only path I knew. Obviously, it was broke, still living at home. My parents wanted me to go. And I also, again, I didn't really know any other option. It was kind of that's what you do, And so, it is kind of funny because I remember I was just on a different show and I was telling this story about how when I went to I forget what they call it, the college day or something like that, where you go basically apply for different colleges.
Enrollment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I went there and I basically went to the counselor of the school that I went to. And I was like, what do you guys have in terms of sports? That's the only thing I liked at the time. I'm like, what degree can I get in sports? And she looked at me and she's like, well, we just launched this new program called sports management. And I was like, oh, perfect. Sign me up, And so I got into that program and literally halfway through the program, my own counselor at the school came up to me and was like, you realize this degree isn't going to do anything for you. You have to network. And it really was a foundational principle, which so was awesome. But at the time I was like, this is so stupid. Why am I spending all this money on this piece of paper if it's not going to do anything? So that's kind of my story, man. And then, like I said, once I got into business, everything changed.
Yeah, 100%. And we talk about college. It's a hot topic on this show.
Yeah.
And the thing that baffles me the most is people go in at 18 or 19 years old and they have no direction or guidance. You see it with so many people. And even like you just said, you picked sports management because it sounded good. That could have been something that would have affected the next 40, 50 years of your life.
It's crazy.
And you don't even get, a year to say, okay, here's what we're going to figure out. And if you do, you're spending money. So it's just bam, make a decision like this.
Yeah.
And it's going to define the rest of your life. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that most people have a problem with. And I never want to, because I get DMs, and I'm sure you do too, tons of them, of people being like, hey, should I go to college? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to make that decision for you. But if you know what you want to do, in most cases, it's going to be more effective to just start doing it instead of getting a piece of paper that says you're certified to
You're
do it.
allowed to do it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I can agree more. So real quick, did you go to college then or no?
Funny enough, so enrollment day that you and I were just talking about, I took the ACT 3 times. I don't even know if I've ever told the story. Highest score I got was a 21. So I got a 17, an 18, and a 21, which is not very good. You get like a 15 just for writing your name.
Yeah.
And I had already been very entrepreneurial throughout school, and I already had some things going. At the time, let's think. At the time that I took it, I hadn't started the podcast yet, but I'd already was rolling with a digital marketing company, and things were going really well. And I went in to enroll, and I told my mom that I went with. We were walking out, and I said, I can't wait to drop out. I hadn't even started yet. And then, like 2 months before school was supposed to start, I dropped all my classes and had some goals that I had set for myself that I said, if I hit these, I'm going to make the decision not to go, and I'm going to pursue this. But I think that's something that a lot more people need to do. Like
Yeah.
me and my buddy who's in the other room, Adam, we were just listening to, it was like Call In Gary V. And this kid was like, Gary, like, I want to drop out of high school. And he's like, okay, well, how?
This.
Yeah. He's like, how old are you? And he was like, I'm 17. He's like, so what are you doing? He's like, well, I got a Shopify store. I just started. Like, that's not grounds to say you're going to drop out of high school. Like, have something going, because if you have no structure and the ball's not already rolling, it's going to be very hard for you to just be like, okay, I'm going to take this nothing and make it super successful without any structure or know-how.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more, man. It's funny you just brought that up too, because I literally today, right before we got on this podcast, just did a repost on one of my accounts of that video of Gary talking to that kid. Yeah, so that's funny.
That's funny.
But yeah, and I also wanted to say real quick as well, man, the ACT thing. That's so funny that you said that, because I took the ACT obviously, and I got a 19, and then my parents made me retake it. And I remember you probably had to do this too, but it was like the retest was, in the morning on like a Saturday morning. It was like an hour from my house. I just did not want to be there. And the funniest thing ever, bro, is I retook the ACT and I got an 18 on it the second time around, which was hilarious. My parents were just like, all right, whatever. Like, we're not paying for this anymore. So yeah, I thought that was funny.
It is, man. It was an interesting thing. And I got kicked out of high school in 10th grade, halfway through.
Oh, wow.
And I went to homeschool. So like homeschool was, I have an interesting, fun story, but homeschool was like, I'm going to get all the regular curriculum, but I have to hold myself like really super accountable. Mm-hmm. So like for like 2 years, since school wasn't really my thing, I was just like, dude, I'm just going to put this on autopilot and be like the least amount of work that I can do and still pass and have my degree or my diploma I'm going to do. So like I'm in taking the ACT and I'm like, dude, I didn't learn any of this. And if I did, I don't really remember. So I'm just
funny.
Just glad I got the old high school diploma. Right. But
right.
I'm going to get it framed in my office, but
there you go.
Love it.
I don't even know where mine is.
Yeah, no, and nobody does. But so Alex, you said that you got introduced to your first business opportunity. So what was that? Network marketing?
Yep. So I got in the network marketing space at 21. Got introduced through. It was kind of a unique little thing because I never heard of it before. So I didn't have any pre like, oh, this is a scam, whatever. Like I had no idea. I've never heard of that industry. And really, what sold me, man, was when I was in Michigan. That's where I grew up and was in school and everything. I actually had in the company that I got involved with, one of the top like leaders was this young guy, and he was in Michigan. And so I got introduced very quickly to some very, very successful young people that were like literally 19, 20 years old, making $250,000, traveling the world, just like, speaking on stages. And it's like, to me, I'm like, dude, I want to do that. That's crazy, so blew my mind and completely changed my life.
Yeah, man. We talk about that. It's funny that all these are coming up. We talk about network marketing a lot too. And John Malott and I had a very good conversation about it. And I have a buddy named Josh Stutz, and he was in Kyani. He did really well in Kyani. And now, he's doing some different things within sales and real estate and things. And he's a stud. Like he's he's a beast. And him and I were talking about, like, it's funny that everybody sees this kind of like a scam when you get trained really. I mean, it's not going to work for everybody, but give me one thing in life with a big reward that does work for everybody.
Exactly.
Like there's nothing. So, it stinks that gets a bad rap, but I mean, there is people that win. I mean, that's not That's a truthful statement. So
there's a lot of people that win at that industry, and I'm not even affiliated with it right now. And I can confidently tell you that especially if you're just starting out, like here's what I'll say is my kids 100% will be involved in a network marketing company. And it's not even because I want them to do that for their whole lives. It's because of what it did for me in terms of building the foundation as an entrepreneur.
You heard it here first.
The best thing you can do. Yeah, there you go, man. It's probably the best thing you can do as a young entrepreneur. Seriously. I mean, it will teach you everything you need to at least get your start, and it'll act as a vehicle to get you to where you want to go. And hey, who knows, maybe you will rack it out and you'll go hit 6-7 figure ranks, who knows?
Alex is going to have 20 kids, put them all in his downline.
There you go, man. I'm about to get real rich.
You're going to kill it. That's awesome. That's funny, man. So I want to ask you this. What do you feel like some lessons you learned in network marketing that transition into what you're doing now? I'm curious on that now that we're talking.
So many, dude. So many. So the very, very first one would be, I would say is just all around sales skills. Prior to network marketing, I've never done sales before. I've never tried to, obviously, you're always selling it. And I believe that, and it's true. But I've never actually put a monetary value on something and actually tried to convince somebody to give me their money before. And so it really taught me how to sell, man. It taught me the art of selling. It taught me how to actually get on the phone with somebody I don't know, carry a conversation, how to connect with them, and how to build enough value, real legitimate value, to then get them to close a deal. Right. And so it taught me sales, and it's translated today because now again, this is actually something I was just talking about with someone else the other day. What's crazy, man, is, back in the network marketing days, I was going after basically broke college kids, trying to convince them to come up with, a few $100 to change their life. Right. And that's a completely different way of selling than when you're talking to today. For example, what I do is my primary person is somebody who's already killing it, a 6, 7, even 8-figure earner. They already have the funds, and I have to basically bring enough value to them that, hey, if you work with me, here's what I'm going to be able to do for you in the personal branding, digital marketing space. And so what I can say is that there is no chance, man, no chance that I would be confident enough today to get on the phone with somebody that I don't know. And the only thing I know about them is that they're a freaking beast in whatever they're doing, and they're an influencer in their own space. And here I am getting on the phone with them to try to sell them, right? I mean, that's a pretty big jump, and a lot of people wouldn't be able to honestly do that. And it's something that I personally am really proud of, because I know that came from doing so many calls and so many meetings in the network marketing profession. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I would say, man, is learning how to build real legitimate relationships, like learning how to, and this kind of like is a backslash, like networking. So like things like this, like being able to reach out to someone like yourself who I don't really know, but I've, been referred to, connect with you, bring value to you, get on a show like this, things like that, man, learning how to network. And then so networking is like your entryway. We were talking about it before the show, like how the power of, a direct message on Instagram, for example. So learning all the different ways of networking, whether it's through social media or through like, hey, you're at an actual physical event and you're talking to somebody face to face, but then you get yourself in the door through networking. And then the next step is, how do you build that real relationship? How do you actually, like the book, win friends and influence people? How do you do that? How do you win a friend? And that's something that I personally, I love to do. I legitimately just think it's awesome to be able to build and collaborate and network, with other influential individuals in different spaces and arenas. And again, man, I never would have done that if it wasn't for that industry, because it forced me to. It forced me to go out there, because you're trying to obviously bring on new team members and sell products. And I had to go out there and get creative at meeting new people in order to, so networking to find new people, and then building legitimate value and relationships with those individuals so that they actually stick around. Yeah. And so that was another huge thing. And then the last thing, I'll leave it with this, and there's so many, to be honest with you, but the last thing that comes to mind really is just, it introduced me to the personal development world. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners are already familiar with this stuff, so I don't need to dive into it. But for me, prior to network marketing, I never heard of that. I never knew what like the Tony Robbins and the Gary, well, Gary's a little different, but same idea, right? Just all those people, all the gurus, if you will, that are really big, and all the books and the audios and, all that stuff and the events. I never heard of any of that until I got into the industry and someone handed me a couple of books, and they're like, listen, man, if you really want to win in life, you got to start doing this stuff. And I've never stopped. I mean, it's been 6 years, and I read every day. I listen to audios every day. I connect with people like you every day in this space. And so it's, man, the personal development, personal growth, just becoming the best version of myself, I got from that industry. Again, it built the foundation for everything that I have now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm glad we were able to hit that point, because I didn't even know that about you. And that's another thing that I think is awesome about the podcast is you get people in a longer form, because like most people see Alex Lombard for what he is now, but
Yeah.
never really get to see on Instagram, at least, what you were and how you became what you are now.
Yeah. And that's something I'm actually really, it's funny you say that, man, because it's something that I'm trying to like incorporate, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I just want to tell my story more, and I just
Mhm.
want to be able to help more people. And it's hard to do that when everyone does, if someone does see you at just like that whole iceberg image, right?
Right.
Where you're like at the top, right? And it's like, look,
Right.
I did all of this to get there. So yeah.
100%. And it's harder to catch people's attention with that, because like most people would rather see this cool picture in front of like a nice car than they would of
Right.
you being like, okay, here's a 10-minute Instagram TV of me like telling my whole story and being vulnerable
Yeah.
with people. So it's like, it's kind of that weird shift.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We could do a whole podcast about that. That's
Yeah. Yeah. You really could.
But let me ask you this, man. So what was the turning point when you got out of network marketing and you got into the digital marketing space and personal branding? What got you introduced to personal branding and got you into it? Because you've been in the game for a while now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious where that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I got into the digital marketing arena and launched my my first like actual company outside of the network marketing space, again with a couple other good friends of mine and co-founders. That was about 2 years ago, and that's when I made I was like kind of in the last year of being in the industry. I was kind of in and out of the industry, doing different things, getting involved with just like different forms of digital marketing, but never really like built a company around it. Until about 2 years ago when we launched our company, and it was catered specifically around just Instagram to begin with, and then it expanded into all areas of the digital marketing space. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to it, just really because I saw it as an opportunity, man. I just saw that like, hey, again, started with Instagram. I saw that we could actually provide value to high level people on Instagram in terms of building their brands. And then again, just once we dove into it, then we realized that there was even more opportunity to expand and do more than just Instagram, because the digital marketing space isn't going anywhere. It's only getting bigger. And
100%.
so that was kind of that. And then basically after being involved with that, what was funny is that for so long, like I said, I've been on Instagram for like 6 years, and my personal brand VisionWall, which now is my personal brand, but prior to literally 2019, it was, and kind of the end towards of 2018 actually, but prior to, really last year and before that, it was just like a motivational quote page. That's how I started. And I made the decision to transfer it into my personal brand so I could kind of share my story and kind of go into that realm of online marketing. And it really just came from honestly working with so many clients that had personal brands. And I just honestly thought it was really cool. And I was like, I like doing this. It's more, when you're doing something for 6 years straight, it kind of gets a little, mundane. Like it's just kind of like, all right, I just got to post another motivational quote today. It's like, whatever, And so when I started doing my life, it's a lot more fun. I found that there's a lot more of a passion behind it, because I actually can share my story. I actually can provide value, and I can, connect. I love like what Russell Brunson says, building a cult-like following, and that's something that I've been really trying to curate and do, moving forward. And I actually want to launch my own podcast and do all this stuff, and you got to have a brand to do those things on a higher level. And that's what I want to do. So there wasn't like one thing. It was kind of just a progression of seeing so many brands and people that I knew that were killing it with their own brands. And I was like, that just sounds fun. It's something new. It's something different. And I knew I could do good. I was good at it, So I was like, all right, let's run with this.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, there's a lot of value in that. That's cool that how you kind of got your turnover and shift. So let's ask this. I'm curious. So what is a few tips that you would give people that they can take away today and grow their personal brand and grow their social media?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we could do multiple podcasts on that, that subject alone. But, a couple of things, man, especially for like a personal brand. I'll just like overall, and it's some of these that I'm going to share you're going to be like, well, I've heard these before, but that's because they're principles. Like if you don't do them, you're not going to win. And the first one is value. You really do have to provide value, man. Like you got to be able to find ways to give value to your people, whether that's through your captions, your videos, your story, whatever it is, give value. Like the way that I kind of do it is like we were talking about, I tell my story. I usually give like some piece of, like a principle of the world, like making money or something like that. But then I tell like a challenge, and I tell my story and what I did to get there and how I overcame it, and, and all these different things. And I write out these captions that I actually put time and energy and thought into, that kind of match, my photos or videos. And then I put it out there. So people, they see that, they read it, they respond to it, whatever. So there's value. So that's number one, is value. Number two, I would say is, and again, a little bit more generic, but it blows my mind how many people don't do this. Instagram is imagery first. If you don't have quality content that is sharp and vibrant and captures people's attention, you're just not going to win, right? It's just a big game, man. And if you don't want to play the game the right way, you're not going to win, plain and simple, you know? And so I'm not saying you have to go dedicate hours to living this filtered lifestyle. What I'm saying though is don't, you know, be aware of what you're posting, be aware of how your overall feed looks. Don't go out there and put up a blurry picture of your dog, because it's just not going to work. No one cares about that, you know? And so really just be intentional with what you're putting out there in terms of value, but then what it actually looks like and how people are going to respond to it. You know, and just ask yourself the question, you know, would you follow your own page? Right? I mean, ask yourself that, like seriously ask yourself that compared to the other billion users that are on there, why would someone follow you? You know, and so value, imagery, it's attractive, it looks good. All that stuff plays a role. And then another thing I would say is, you know, really utilize your story. Get in the habit of utilizing Instagram stories on a day-to-day basis as much as you can. Again, you know, share value, but the biggest key that I coach on with stories is be authentic, man. You got to be authentic. Like you got to tell your story. You got to share your life. You got to show what's going on, and you got to do everything from the bad to the good to the great, everything in between. Be authentic. Talk about who you are, give value, talk about what you're good at, you know, put up quotes, put up videos, everything, you know, use the different gifts and the things that they allow you to use. Just be active, man, be active and be engaging with your people. And then the last thing I'd say is engaging. So like responding, right? Responding. I mean, even people like Gary Vee, who have 5 million followers, like they're on their page every single day, responding to people. And it's like, you got to do that. You got to do that no matter what level you're at. Responding in the comments, you know, giving likes, you know, going out there and even following accounts, responding to DMs, you know, things like that. So, and finding ways to get your people engaged with you and then responding back. So those are a few tips that I'd give. Again, you know, obviously we could spend the rest of the time on here diving into it if we wanted to. So it's up to you. But yeah, man.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So it's great advice, really tactical. And I think that, like you said, a lot of people, they think there's some kind of like magical secret in what you're saying is so true. Like it's just, there's a formula for it. It works. It's what everybody says to do. That's winning. Do that. It's like,
Yep.
you know, Brody Kern and I were talking about the other day. Simplicity is key.
Yes.
And so many people try to overthink and overdo. And it's just like, if there's a formula for something, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Like everybody that's one of my first mentors. It's one of the best pieces of advice he's ever given me. He's like, dude, John, don't try to reinvent the wheel. If it works, do it and do it better. It's just it's simple.
Couldn't agree more.
100%. So let me ask you this, man. What are some books that you like? You seem like you're a reader. Are you a reader?
I try to be. So I do read every day, but I've never been good at it. It's definitely not. I'm a visual learner. And so reading has always been I do a lot of audios and visuals like YouTube and stuff. But I do read every day because there's a power of reading. It does a lot with, you know, your overall, like it helps build your imagination because you're literally reading something and putting an image into your mind, you know, so it's powerful in that sense. And I do get some out of reading, of course, if I am engaged to it. So I do read. I've read a lot of different books. Some of my, you know, favorites, I mentioned it earlier, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Such a great book, man. Such a foundational book. If you just life, you don't even have to be in business. You know, that book will just teach you how to legitimately connect and network with the people that you need to be connected and networking with, in life in general, whether that's, you know, health, business, relationships, spiritual, doesn't matter. There's learning how to communicate with people. I feel like a lot of people in our generation, especially you and I, you know, our generation and down, like just, and for whatever reasons, there's a lot of different, you know, reasons for it. People just don't really know how to communicate. They don't know how to like actually talk to another human being.
I think it's because social media.
And it's a huge role, you know, it definitely plays a huge role, phones, all that stuff. So anyways, that's a great book that I've read, that I absolutely love. I'm reading right now. I don't have it with me, but I'm reading Gary's new book, actually, a little bit more on the how side of things. I'm losing the name of what it's called.
Crushing It.
Crushing It. Yeah. Crushing It. I'm about halfway through that. Really good book. Been on my mind a lot. Yep. There you go. Boom. Perfect.
Chapter 14 podcast.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. I just got to part 2. So I'm getting into all that right now. But that's a great book for anyone that does really want to get, you know, into the digital personal branding side of things for your business or your name, your brand. So that one I'm reading right now currently. I'm a very spiritual person, so I read the Bible every single day. You know, regardless of what you believe, you go in Proverbs and read that. It's everything in personal development comes from that, you know, so, you know, it's all there thousands and thousands of years ago, written in Proverbs, you know, so that's a great book to read as well.
I've said it multiple times on the Proverbs 14:23. It says like hard work leads to success, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Like
there you go, man.
There you go. Or Christianity within that. That's just a life principle
There
that
you go.
everyone can learn from. And it's just like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And so I would recommend that for sure. Yeah. Regardless of what you believe, it's like, just go read Proverbs, man. Like I mean, it was written, King Solomon, noted the richest person to ever live, to ever walk the earth. It's like, that's literally that's him giving you his life, principles right there. And so, very, very powerful stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, I've read a lot of Tony's stuff as well when it comes to, investing and, just understanding, the game of money, things like that. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you want to understand how, business works and investing, that's a principle, foundational book as well. So, yeah, man, those are a few that definitely pop out.
You got some bomb droppers in there, bro. Especially Rich Dad Poor Dad. I love Rich Dad Poor Dad, man.
Yeah, so good, so good.
Yeah, incredible book. And I say that's a great, because I believe not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, obviously, but everybody wants some level of financial freedom. That's a
Absolutely.
fact. I mean, regardless of what people are going to say, that's the truth. And that's why I like Rich Dad Poor Dad, because it's practical. It doesn't talk about running a business. It's not,
right.
And, it has things in there where he says that he'll buy businesses that he doesn't really have to work on, but it's not a very entrepreneurial book.
Right.
It's more about owning assets and,
exactly.
money,
and that's it, man. It's I love the phrase of just life's a game, and that's what I'm thinking about naming my podcast. And the thing is like, that's what that book does. Like, he teaches you the game of money, and that's what it is. Like, it's literally just a game. You got to learn how to get it, and then you got to learn how to keep it, and you got to learn how to duplicate it, and it's like, that's the game, gaining assets. Like, that's what it is, and prior to that book, like, I didn't really understand what assets were. And most people don't. They're financially illiterate. They don't understand them. And it's like, if you just become aware of what those are and you put a little action forth towards them, your entire life can change.
100%. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. So let's talk about some habits that you feel like have really contributed to your success, because I mean, the power is in the habit. What you do on a daily basis is a reflection of, the quality of your life. So let's talk about some habits that you've formed. I'm curious.
Yeah, man. So I'm really big on a morning routine. I think that everybody needs to have that. I love Tony Robbins, just one of the greatest legends ever to walk this earth. He says, if you don't have, it's either, I don't even forget the number, 10 or 15 minutes, but regardless, if you don't have 10 minutes to, for yourself every day, you don't have a life. And it's like, if someone like him, who legitimately is traveling the entire globe all day, every day, can do some, create a morning routine for himself, then there's no reason why we can't. And so, I think morning routines are powerful. There's tons of books, tons of people that talk about them. I've always had one. They've changed. I don't think there's like an exact way to do it. I think everybody has to kind of find their own. But for me, the habit in the morning is basically just, getting up, immediately, going into my office and I do some meditation just to kind of get my mind right. I don't check my phone for the first like half hour or so until I'm done with everything. Because as soon as you check your phone, you're at effect to the world. And I don't want that. And so I don't check my phone. I do some meditation. I'll read some scripture. I do prayer. Sometimes I'll read another book after that. And then I actually, from there, I go into reading, goals and writing my goals down, and reading them and just really like visualizing them and feeling good about them and, using the power of my actual mind to accomplish them. And then once that's done, then I'll move into, going on to my phone. But the first thing I usually do is go on Instagram, because for me, Instagram is obviously part of my life and a business, and I enjoy it. I think it's fun. And so I go on there, do like the posting and all that. And then I get to like my messages and kind of start the day. So that's like I'm a big on morning routine. So create a habit for yourself in the morning. Again, it can be whatever you want. But my biggest piece of advice is, do something that is going to allow you to grow and get yourself like primed, like meaning you're priming your mind and your body and yourself for the day. And it's like, cause it's hard to have a great day if you start off bad, plain and simple. And so that's been a big one, man. And then, I like to break life up into different categories. So you have like mental, physical, spiritual, relationships, and social, and then business. That's the last one, for me. And other people can be finances, money, whatever. And so what I try to do is I try to build habits within each one of those categories. So what I already mentioned to you, just by the morning routine, I've already, hit the spiritual side of things. I've already hit the mental side of things. I'll usually hit the gym, anywhere between 4 and 5 days a week. So I'll do the physical side of things. Got to stay active. Gym's great for just discipline in general. And then, I have, and then like for relationships, just connecting with new people, building new relationships, seeking out, whether it's through, again, messaging, connecting, going to events, all that stuff. I'm always just like reaching out and talking to new people. So I have a habit of connecting and networking with individuals, all around the world through social media or in my hometown. So, yeah, man. And then, business, obviously I have my own core habits when it comes to that specifically,
Right.
whether it's posting or, all that stuff. So, those are a few things, man, that I do, but biggest thing I can say is morning routine, setting goals. I do monthly goals, and a yearly goal. And then just, finding little habits that are going to help you grow in those main categories of your life.
It's awesome. Man, I love it. I love it. So, Alex, let me ask you this, man. Do you have any key mentors or somebody that you can say, man, that guy really put my life trajectory on point? Like any people like that in your life that you feel like have really impacted you?
So I don't have any specific in terms of like one or, a lot of people are like, who's your main mentor of life? And I don't have that. What I have is I have different mentors for different things. I don't believe that any one human being is a master of all things. That's just stupid. That, doesn't make any sense. And so but what I do believe is that there are certain people, like for example, Tony Robbins, who are masters at certain areas of life. And so Tony's been a big one for me, whether it's through his, events, speaking his events, his trainings, his books, whatever it is. So I've studied him for a long time. He's been really good. Jim Rohn, he's a classic one as well. A lot of these names people probably know, but they're there for a reason, So those guys are more of like the, strategics when it comes to like business and mental and, and just your overall like personal growth and development in those different areas. But then I have like different mentors for, like the spiritual side of things or even like social media, like I look up to people like Gary Vee when it comes to specifically social media. I may not necessarily agree with the way he lives his life or his family, like that kind of stuff, but I'm not there for that. Like I'm there to learn from him when it comes to like what I'm doing in my personal business, because it's so correlated. So those are a couple of names, man, that, of people that have definitely impacted me. And then there's a list of different like pastors and things like that in the spiritual world that have helped a lot too. But like I said, I think for me, it's never really been about one individual. It's been about, hey, this person's helped me in this area of my life at this point in my life. Because also, as you grow and evolve, you're going to relate and connect with different people in that same category. So I've had multiple mentors in the same category as I've gotten older.
100%. I love it, man. So in closing, let me ask you this. That's a very cliche question, but it does help a lot of people. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to a young entrepreneur just starting out right now?
Dude, good question. All right, one piece. So I could give you a lot, but one piece of advice that I would give would be trying to have a few things that I'm thinking about, but I'm trying to think of like what would be the most important. I would say for me, man, it would be to really get yourself surrounded by the right individuals. So many people, your environment is going to create your reality. It's like there's that phrase, if you hang around 9 crackheads, you're going to be the 10th. And it's like, it's so true though. If you hang around 9 millionaires, you're bound to be the 10th one. And that's just how it works. And it's just the law of the world. And so I would say, get yourself around the right people for whatever you're doing. Create your environment, man. Like go out there and make sure that the people that are around you, that you're giving your time, your most precious asset to, it's actually helping you. It's actually serving you. If you're hanging around a bunch of just broke kids that don't know what they're doing and, they're not really going anywhere in life, it's like, I would challenge you to start networking and finding other people. So building your environment, who's the people around you? Who are you spending the most time with? You're going to get everything in life is going to come down to the most, you're going to be the average of the 5 people you hang around most in all areas of life: mental, physical, spiritual, relationships, social, business. So make sure those 5 people are the right people. And one of the best ways you can do that is by getting involved in a network marketing business, which again, I'm not affiliated with any of them, just a straight piece of advice.
Love it, man. Well, Alex, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I'm going to have all your links in the description below. And for all of the listeners, if you did finish this, send Alex a DM. Tell him thank you for coming on. Make sure to follow him on all his socials. If you did get value from this podcast today, please be sure to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and subscribe so you don't miss out on another one. Alex, thank you so much. And to all my listeners, as always, remember, no excuses.